here is the groove that I use for my version of Rockin Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie Flu. Sounds like this. All right, so let's see what's going on there. So I play this in G. The original by Huey Piano Smith is in C, I believe. And now this song only has 2 chords in it. It's got the G or G7, optional G7. But usually on the 1 chord, you leave that 7 off and you play a G6 or just nothing, just a triad. And then the other chord is the 5, the D7. Okay. So those are the only 2 chords in this song. Now my left hand goes kind of a James Booker-esque. All right, so that's, and I like to reinforce the octave with the 5th here. So I go, and now take that same shape, jump it down to the 5. Now, why am I going to the 5? In kind of a classic ragtime or stride or any sort of oompa rhythm, you've got the chord, for instance, G, will stay the same, but the bass will alternate 1 and 5. Because it really doesn't change the quality of the chord. It's a nice, it gives it some motion in the left hand or in the bass. But the chord's not moving. It's still a G chord. Because basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do something like that, but in one hand, so that my right hand can do other stuff. So left hand, first beat, 1, 2. Beat 2 is this. Then we take the same shape, jumping down to the D, but start at the top. Go down to D and rock back to this 5th and the octave. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, and. Now beat 4 is going to do, I usually hold, in my mind, I'm playing the D every time. I'm playing this top D every time, but in reality, I'm lazy with it, and I go, and I'll hold that D while I start walking up the E. Then I'll play it again when I get to the F sharp. And then you're back to the top. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and that's your full pattern. That's the whole bar. One, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. So the only time you're not playing 8th notes is that first 1, 2. And there's my little cobra technique from the last video. You see it in action. That's how I rotate my hand. Right? So it gives me a lot of power with relatively little effort here. My hand's always going like this. With most bass lines I play, actually. Even the walking bass line. So 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3. And then for D, I'll usually do some sort of transition there in that last bar. So we've got 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 4 bars on G. 3, 4, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. So now, on that last part of the 4th bar, going to D, I go 1, 2, now I go down to B, and 3, and 4, and. Okay. So that's that little transition. And you don't have to play the B again. But something to walk up. Essentially, you're doing that to D. Or that's another way to walk up to the D. So your choice. And then you play the pattern on D. 1. Okay, so in D it's... And I am walking the major. So basically I've transposed this exact pattern from G to D. So I am stepping up that major 7th of D, even though the chord is a flat 7. I'm still walking up through the major 7 because you know what? It actually doesn't conflict that much. And you could go, but really this is a transition note walking back to D, so you kind of get away with playing the major 7 under the flat 7 because you're not, you're not forcing it down people's ear. It's just stepping through. And then you've got to get back to the G for the break. So I will do any number of things. It doesn't really matter how you walk back as long as you get back to the G on beat 1. So let me just show you at least one of the ways I do that. So you do the bass line 2 bars in D. You can do that. You can go. That's how you can kind of simplify it a little bit. So I go 1, 2, and. That takes the place of 1, 2, and, right? Where I would normally jump. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and right there is where you start the... So I've got a video about this. It's called How to Play the Lick. It's under my New Orleans piano playlist. I'll put a link to it here. But this, just to break it down real quick. So I'm using my lick number 1 from this book. Okay, lick number 1. Or you can look at the New Orleans book I have. I'll put a link to that too. So there I switched to 3 and 5. And here I'm grabbing this, sliding, 3rd finger. Cross over. And here, for the turnaround, you want, or you don't, I don't know if you want this. I want this. I like this. I got this from Dr. John, pushing the half step with the 4th finger. So it's all D, but you got the half step. All right, so we got... So what I'm doing in the right hand is basically 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and that repeats. So notice how by the end I'm holding down a full G chord because I'm holding them down. This is the basic shape you keep. It's what I call the Professor Long Hair position in my other videos. So I'm holding this down, right? Think G chord, keeping the G chord, hold this down, move the octaves, and then play again. So now I got G6, resolving to G triad. Okay, now what I do to enhance this, make it a little dirtier, is I'll play the A to make it like a 2-note slide. Do it again. So take it or leave it. For me, I like it. You don't need it. So that comes in right on 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay. And then sometimes for the transition, I'll go. So again, with this double note. And then when I get to D, I'm just playing a straight up D7, 2 notes with the thumb. That's how I do the ending. So that other little lick in there. So this is over the D coming back to G. B flat. It's basically A minor. Oh, who's that? Who's that little hand? Who's that little hand coming in here? And then we got G and yep, it's been swarmed by kids. It's kind of a variation on I was ambushed by kids. I know I'm going to get some questions about those ending chords. All those are is F13. Same thing, parallel up a half step. Almost the same thing on the last one, but it's an A. Basically, it's a G7 with an A chord. Or G7 sharp 11. Okay, hope that helps.